Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast, which is sponsored by UK Fightwear. My name is Ray. I've managed to get 5 great interviews lined up for this week's show, which I'm very excited for you to all listen to. Some really great guests this week. But before I shout out who the guests are, I just want to do my normal shout outs. We've got running a Twitter contest at the minute with our sponsors, UK Fightwear, to win Ross Pearson merchandise. We've got a few more days left now. We'll be ending it sometime next week for you to get a chance to win this merchandise. So you need to follow on Twitter at MMA Mental and at UKFW, which stands for UK Fightwear, and tweet hashtag UK MMA and hashtag Real Deal at both of us. And you'll be put in a draw to win the prizes. Do our shout outs to the MMA podcast, which is a show hosted by Jake, and also Word on the Street with Ramses. Both two of my very close friends, and proud to work with them. So definitely check out their shows. I also do a round table with them as well on a regular basis. Check out Facebook pages, MMA Addiction, UFC Games if you like MMA games, fantasy games, and MMAmental.com. Okay, let's get on to the interviews. Got, like I say, 5 really good guests lined up for this week. We start off with Eric Moell, who is fighting on XFC 25. He's got a really tough match coming up. He's facing the XFC Open Fighter tryout winner, Joby Sanchez. So it's going to be a big fight for Eric. If he can pull off this win, it's really going to raise his profile. So it's a huge opportunity for him. And I know he's very excited for the fight. And then we switch across and we move on to Cage Warriors 56, an event that's just happened weekend just gone. So we speak to Fabio Ferrari. He's coming off a huge win over Brett Seisland. He also trains at the Tsunami gym, and if you're a regular listener, you'll know we've got friends at the Tsunami gym with Luke Barnett, Jack Mason, John Maguire. So it was great to get another one of their standout guys on the show. Then we move on to another guy who not only is he coming off an impressive win at Cage Warriors, he's also getting ready to headline and welcome back a UFC veteran to UCMMA 35. So this was a really good interview. Denniston Sutherland, he looked great at the weekend over Brett Bassett. His striking looked fantastic. And then he's after this win, he's already set to headline UCMMA 35. And like I say, and he's welcoming back Karlos Vemola, which is going to be a super fight. It's a really stacked card actually, and if you want to check out how you can get tickets for that, the event's on August 3rd, and you just go to www.ucmma.tv, so definitely check that out. Right, next up then, we've got Ian the Machine Freeman. Now there's been a lot of talk in the news lately about Ian Freeman fighting Ken Shamrock. As I'm sure you're all aware now, Ken Shamrock has ducked Ian Freeman again. This is the 3rd time he's had the opportunity to fight Ian, and he's turned him down. You can listen to Ian, he's raging. But at the same time, he's got a massive fight coming up now because he's now going to be facing former UFC Heavyweight Champion Ricco Rodriguez. And Ian Freeman at the minute, he just looks in amazing shape. He's really worked hard for this fight. So that's going to be at UCFC 6. He really gives us inside information on how this all came out, his interactions with Shamrock. This is straight from the horse's mouth. This is straight from Ian. He's telling us exactly what's happened. So this is not second or third information. This is directly from Ian. So you can't beat that. And if you want to go and check out this event, I mean this event is absolutely stacked. It's on July 27th, in Doncaster. Go to www.ucfc.tv, their website for ticket information. But this is one hell of a stacked card. You've got 8 UFC veterans on this card, so it's not a card to be sniffed at. And then our final interview is current UFC commentator Jon Anik. Of course, he was on ESPN Live as well. So he talks a little bit about his road to the UFC, and then I just wanted to get his takes on some of the big news at the minute that's going on in the UFC. So I asked him a couple of different questions, and we talked about. I asked him for his views on Weidman and Silva. Of course, that's the big thing that's happened recently. I don't think many of us ever expected to see Silva get beaten the way he did. Talk about the featherweight division. I mean, the top of the division is absolutely stacked, and this is John's favourite division, so it's great to get his take on it. He told us who he would like to see face the winner of Aldo and Korean Zombie. And he also hinted at the fact that Kenny Florian is considering coming out of retirement, or he's pushing for him to come out of retirement. But he also went on Twitter afterwards and joked saying he'd just dropped a few little fibs about Kenny Florian. So I'm not sure what's true, but it's interesting to hear what he's got to say about Kenny Florian anyway. So hopefully you enjoy all these interviews. Okay, we're now joined by Eric Moell. Eric will be fighting at XFC 25, and he will be facing Joby Sanchez, who'll be making his debut at flyweight. Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
My pleasure. Okay, before we talk a little bit about this fight, I'd just like to get a little bit of I'd like to do a background check on you, find out a little bit about your training and things like that. So, firstly, what got you into mixed martial arts?
My brother used to train jiu-jitsu under a Carlson Gracie Sr. Black belt, and he trained it for a long time, and he always asked me, come try class out. I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. And then finally he got me in on one class, and ever since then I just been hooked.
How long ago was that then that you took that up?
Well, that was about 6.5 years ago. And I also I wrestled in school.
So you had a background in wrestling. So how did you find it then, adapting from wrestling to jiu-jitsu?
It was a little difficult. I was used to trying to stay on top for so long in wrestling. So that was a tough transition, learning that, it's all right sometimes to be on your back. You can fight from there. So that was kind of difficult, but just being on the ground was where it seemed like it was easy because I was already comfortable being in scrambles and, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the biggest transition, really. Wrestling is obviously a fantastic base for mixed martial arts, but the biggest difference with the jiu-jitsu, of course, is being able to fight from any position, where with wrestling, like you say, it's predominantly controlling from top position. Okay, so you're currently, I'm going on your Sherdog record, you're currently 3-1. Now, all of your wins have come by submission. So do you feel that is down to the fact that you have focused on your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Carlson Gracie?
Mm-hmm. Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Your record is 3-1, and all of your wins are by submission. So do you feel that is credited to your training?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm pretty comfortable on the ground. Once I get it down there, I'm usually a lot faster and stronger than my opponents. So that kind of just helps me control the guys. Beat them up a little bit, look for that submission, get in and get out.
And how with regards to your jiu-jitsu, then how many hours do you train a day or a week?
I'm training right now. I'm training about 6 or 7 hours, 5 days a week.
And are you still
living in the gym?
Yeah. Are you still training with your brother?
Yes.
And what's it like training with family then? How do you find that?
It's actually great because he doesn't cut me no slack. As him being my older brother, he knows what my potential is. So if he knows I'm not giving my all, out of everyone at the gym, he knows that I'm not giving it my all. He pushes me twice as hard as anyone else ever could. So he's been there with me for day one. He's been my jiu-jitsu instructor, and he's mixed in some MMA in his career too. He also had fought, and then I have a separate boxing coach, and I train a little bit of judo also.
Now, obviously, you were 3-0, and then you were picked up by the XFC. How did the opportunity come about to fight with the XFC?
Yeah, that was different. It was my first televised fight. It was my first pro fight that made it out of the first round. It was actually the first fight that I went out of the first round since I think 2009. So and I suffered a pretty good cut early in the first. I had a little bit of adversity I had to fight through, and I felt like I did all right. I just made a simple mistake, and I got caught.
So do you feel any added pressure then going into this fight coming off of a loss?
No, I feel zero pressure on this fight. I feel like all the pressure is aiming towards Joby. He's undefeated. It's in his backyard. He hasn't fought in a year, and he was the XFC Open tryout winner. I just see he's got all the pressure. I'm sitting there to fight. I don't feel any pressure at all. This is my third fight this year, so I'm feeling really good about this fight.
With the fact that he was the Open tryout winner, we obviously know the Open tryouts are a big part of the XFC and bringing fighters through. And with the fact he's undefeated, do you feel that if you come in and get this win, it really raises your profile?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. The win over Joby's going to definitely give me a little bit more see my name out there a little bit more because he's a very well-known person just because he won those tryouts too. That shot him up big. You know, he was already a tough kid. He was undefeated, but when he won those tryouts, got that contract, that's a big deal. So win over him is going to look good on me.
And where do you feel your advantages are to his weaknesses in this fight?
A lot of people talk about his boxing, and no one's really ever seen his boxing. Apparently, he had a really good amateur career in boxing, but I believe most of his wins are by submission. And I've watched his XFC debut, and he looked crafty on the ground, very skilled. I really think he favors the ground a little bit more, but I think his weakness might be in the clinch and on the stand-up.
And with regards then to training for this fight, of course, we're still early days. We're about 8 weeks out from the fight. Have you started your training camp yet, or is it a constant thing, or how does it work with regards to preparing for a fight?
Yeah, for me, it's a constant. I'm always in the gym. I never take time off. After the last fight, once the stitches were out, I was in as soon as I could. I never take time off. But I say usually 8 weeks before the fight, we do set the pace up a little bit more. We do push a little harder, and we try to set game plans up. But really, I'm just a gym rat. I'm always in there learning, trying to improve and get better.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing matchup because, with what you've done so far, with only having the one loss, and then with the way he's come through the tryouts, there's obviously going to be a lot of extra pressure on him. Like I say, he hasn't fought for a while, so it's a very intriguing matchup. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show today, Eric. Thank you for giving me your time. Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. You want to shout out any friends, family, any sponsors, and let people know how they can contact you via Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. You can contact me on Twitter. It's at Eric Moell, EricMoell, and I'm on Facebook, which is the same. And just a big shout out to my team, Team Alliance MMA. We're from Cincinnati, Ohio, and we just got a really good group of guys, and we train hard, and everyone pushes each other. All my sponsors, we got Bluegrass MMA, Swollen Knuckles Clothing, Bangtown Fightwear, NWG Management, Bellum Couture, and just everyone that supports me. And be sure to tune in to Access TV on September 6th.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic card, but it's going to be a fantastic fight. Thank you very much for your time today, Eric.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Bye. Okay, I'm now joined by Fabio Ferrari, coming off a huge win at the weekend at Cage Warriors 56. Fabio, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
I appreciate the support and all that.
My pleasure. I appreciate you giving me the time to come, your time to come on. Obviously, I do want to talk about your fight. It was a great performance. It's on national TV as well, which is always a big thing. I know it was streamed live across the world as well. So we'll talk about that. But before we do that, I just want to get a little bit of your background. Now, I'm going by Sherdog Fight Finder, and you started fighting professionally in 2008. What made you want to get into mixed martial arts?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm originally from Brazil. I mean, not many people know. I think they introduced me as a from Peter. Everybody knows back in Brazil, is a quite big thing in MMA. Back in the days when Vale Tudo was on and everything. I come from Curitiba, the town where a lot of fighters come out of. Anderson Silva, Vanderlei Silva. The Rua brothers. Shogun and Ninja and everybody. So I used to train a bit jiu-jitsu. I used to do a bit of luta livre, which is the grappling nowadays. And I never really took serious. I trained at shoot the box, and I trained with a few people around. And school was like a big thing. We used to finish the school, come to my house. We used to have like a mat in the garage, and we used to train quite a bit back in the days. But it was all fun, And then when I turned 18, I decided to move. I came to UK. Like every other foreigner does, come for a better life, and I kind of lost the touch with the training. And I met a friend of mine. He was like, I do a little bit judo. I said, I've done a bit jiu-jitsu, And then he's like, I know some guys in Cambridge, you should drive down there and maybe, train with them and stuff. So we went down to Cambridge for a fight at the time. This is going back years ago. Went there and, walked in. We were late, man. Everybody was hitting pads. I'm like, oh my Lord, these guys are gonna whoop our butts tonight. But well, that was the start of it. So I trained at Cambridge Free Fight for a couple of weeks. Then I met a dude and said, well, if you want to do MMA, where you do a lot of more grappling, if you're into that, these guys down Tsunami. So I was like, okay, we'll try and go to another gym, We went to Tsunami and I met Robbie and Joe McGuire, the McGuire brothers, Tommy and Jack. So it felt quite welcomed and stuff, and I carried on training with them. And that's when I started, living with real fighters, professional fighters and stuff. And then I thought, I love these, I like doing these, and let's have a go. So, I fought Matthew Piran a few years back. When he's trained to professional fighting, Up to today, I watched that old fight, and I think to myself, how the hell did I win that fight? Because I didn't train that much, So it was a good experience, man. And then this weekend I had the Cage Warriors, that's just gone by, and that was an amazing experience,
Yeah, I can imagine it was. I mean, you'd done really well on the other shows you've been on, but they were regional shows. This was definitely a big step up. Before we talk about Cage Warriors, just want to talk a little bit about Tsunami Gym, because we're seeing Tsunami a lot in the news, and we've seen a few of their guys now are making their mark in the UFC. We've seen Luke's had a fantastic run on The Ultimate Fighter. John's had some big wins in the UFC. What's it been like training with those guys and watching them progress to where they've gone?
Oh, watching them guys progressing and making it big and going there and then beating people up the way they do in a good style, it just makes you hungry, And you're there, you're part of it, you train with them. Like I said that on interview on Cage Wars, I said, things are getting better because I train with them beasts, them guys beat me about, So I go to the gym, I'm truly a believer of training hard, fight easy. I go there, them guys put me on spot, they put a lot of pressure, beat me up basically, and it just makes me hungry, man. Every time I see them guys fighting, how good they do, it just pushes the whole team, everybody is so hungry, so much talent down the gym. The other day I went down there and I didn't train. I was just watching, man. I'm like, oh, there's a few names that will come on, and I'm sure you guys will know about it when them boys come over, come to play. There's so much talent there. It's tough, real tough. We get together and train, and the next day I'm all sore, He's a real tough guy there. A lot of talent. That's all I can say. And then, a lot of the old guys see on TV, man. I mean, the ground, the wrestling that we get there, and then the boxing now is another level. I mean, like I said to everybody, I train in the best team in the UK, We get everything that the best fighters fighting out of there, man. It's pretty crazy, And then I see them guys on UFC and that. It's crazy just to think, he was beating me up last week pretty bad,
Because I noticed as well, even on this event at the weekend, I mean, you were obviously there representing Tsunami Gym, but Robbie Olivier was there as well, and Arnold Allen was there, and you all had solid performances and solid wins. So it just shows you how much the Tsunami Gym is coming on leaps and bounds, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, everybody's on the making, Everybody's on the making. Like John and Luke are just the first guy to break it, to make it out there. But there's a lot of more people coming through. It's just a matter of time. Like we say to each other, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing. Can't give it up because hard work will pay off. That's what I'm a strong believer. Hard work will pay off. You just got to keep it hitting it. You got the right guys around you. You got the right people around you, and they just showing you the way. It's down to you to just put hard work in and achieve it. Like tomorrow or in a year or 2 years. If you're like a dream chaser, you got to chase it. You got the right people around. So it makes it a little easier.
Absolutely, I think you're right in what you say there. And that's what you're doing, and that's why you're making the mark that you're making. I mean, let's talk a little bit about Cage Warriors. I mean, this was your Cage Warriors debut, and it's fair to say at the moment that Cage Warriors is probably considered the biggest promotion in Europe. It's live on telly in the UK. I know it's streamed live on MMA Junkie as well. You're on the main card. How did you feel with fighting on such a big card?
You know, first of all, it was going to be like the main event on the prelim card, you know, on Facebook, which I thought was pretty cool, you know, because like everybody back home were like, oh, it's going to be live streamed. I was like, yeah, watch it, you know. So I get a lot of messages over Facebook, people like, oh, you know, where do I have to go to watch a fight? I was like, oh, it's going to be on Facebook. So everybody's like, okay, it's going to be on Facebook. And I was like nervous kind of thing, you know, but it's just on Facebook, you know, only if your friend's going to see it. And when I went to the weightings, then they told me I was going to be the first fight on the main card, you know. And that's a stacked up card, you know, a lot of talent there again, you know. And I was like, wow, you know, like shit just got real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was nervous. And I'm telling people like, oh, it's going to be televised and this and that. And I was nervous. I mean, I was on the back there getting warmed up, you know, trying to concentrate. But you know, I'm gonna tell you, like when I was walking down and stuff, and everything was going through my mind, I was like, right, time to switch it on, you know.
Yeah. It was.
I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I was nervous because I know there's so many people watching it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cage Warriors, like I said, is the best promotion in Europe. You know, one of the best in the whole world. And I'm like, man, you know, I gotta perform here. You know, I gotta give these people. You know, I told myself, I gotta give these people a good show, a good fight. I'm trying to put a performance, you know, because every time I fight, I think that way. But like, you know, when you know it's streaming and there's thousands of people watching it, and you kind of think like, oh, man, you know, I gotta do it right this time, you know. And thankfully, man, thank God, you know, everything went right, I guess, apart from this leak on the first round.
Yeah, let's talk about the fight. I mean, you were fighting Brett Sizeland. You won with a round one submission, rear naked choke. Talk me through how you think the fight played out, what went well and what didn't go well.
Right, well, when I got told that I was going to fight Brett Sizeland, like, you know, Tsunami is pretty strong. We got together and everybody was like, okay, this is going to be the game plan kind of thing. And, you know, I got a good coach, Nigel. You probably know him. He's one of the coaches at the gym as well. And I'm very close to him, and we kept talking on what we should do to trying to break Brett, because Brett's the kind of guy that comes on to you, he puts pressure on you, and if you let him get comfortable, then you start losing real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we worked on something. We got to do something to stop him from getting comfortable. You know, and you know, if you look at watch the fight, I'm trying to stand enough for that. I mean, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, you know, I love jiu-jitsu, and I thought I would finish every fight on the ground, you know. But that was the game plan going in there, put pressure on him, trying to make him very uncomfortable, you know. And I was trying to do it. I came in first, coming on, like, started the fight. I threw a little combination, I gave step back to come out, I slipped on the mat. And real quick, just took some back memories. You know, when I fought in Ireland and started the year, beginning of the year, March, I slipped. And I fought Henry Fadip. And he came charging on me, man. Like, he hurt me on the first round really bad.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why it crossed my mind. I was like, oh, this again. And then I was trying to get it real quick and then just concentrate on what I had to do, you know? So I kept pushing forward, trying to counter his punches, learning quite a few shots of my own, you know? And around 4.5 minutes on the first, you know, we were just exchanging. And I managed to get a knockdown on him, you know, straight left. He dropped. I followed up. He came up, and I went for a takedown, got his back, tripped. Got a hook in, and I done a crossface that I do quite a lot at the gym. You know, I put the arm across the face and squeeze real hard, because when they're trying to go against your arm, they lift their chin up, so the other hand goes underneath of it, and you get a pretty good rear naked choke. And thankfully, it worked out pretty good this time, you know.
Yeah, it was the way you did that was beautiful, and you went with one hand, and then you got the other hand in really quick, which looked fantastic. And you explained to me, it makes sense now what you were doing. But was you aware of the time, because you didn't have long left, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I was around the corner, right at Brett's corner, you know. And I could hear them saying there's 20 seconds left. In my head, I was like, man, 20 seconds is enough, you know?
Yeah.
And I think he was a little bit rocked, I don't know. Because when I pulled got his back on the ground. He didn't really try to turn or anything, so I knew in my head I had to work pretty quick. So that's why I crunched across the face, and he tries to avoid that, turning his face up to the other side against the arm, and then gives me enough space to just run the other hand under, and that was pretty deep. When I caught it, I knew there was going to be just a matter of a few seconds for him to tap, because if he didn't tap, he would go to sleep, I think we finished 4:48, so I had like good 12 seconds to hold on to, enough to put people to sleep.
Yeah, there's no way he could have held on for 12 seconds. If he hadn't tapped, he'd have gone unconscious, because that choke was on tight really quick, wasn't it? There's no way he could have held on for 12 seconds.
Yeah, I'm all about finishes. Every time I fight, trying to put on a show to people, and I'm trying to finish the fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I got his back, I could just hear his corn scream. Like, got 20 seconds in my head. Like 20 seconds enough, man. That's work. And it worked out for well, man. It was an amazing feeling. Like it was a big show, big card. I had some friends of mine fighting there as well, and some of the boys had won already.
Yeah.
I was all pumped, and I think the atmosphere that we had on the backstage, warming up and seeing the boys winning and stuff before me, that everything just built up for the fight, and man, thank God everything just went just the way it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? In my head, that's how it went loads of times, and it happened. Yeah,
it was brilliant. I mean, how did you feel after the fight? Did you have any knocks, any injuries, or were you good get straight back into training?
I was training on Monday, yeah, because I had only like a black eye and a bit of a sore nose, and I got back on Monday. I went to do some jiu-jitsu, do my gi work. I love that, trying to keep sharp, because sometimes you do a lot of MMA, you don't get a lot of time to train with the gi, and then you put the gi on after a few months, man, you forget a lot of stuff, so I'm trying to keep sharp. And I went to train on Monday, and then I couldn't do Tuesday, which is an important night at Tsunami gym. Then I went back on Wednesday to do some more jiu-jitsu, and then Thursday and Friday I thought, I'm going to take a few days off, and next week I'll be on full on again, I think Sunday, actually, because I'm going to Colchester to do some training with Jack, because Jack's fighting next Saturday again at Cage Warriors 57 in Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's fighting Bruno. So I'm going to give him a hand too, see if he wants to do some rounds and stuff. So it's good to be around as well,
Yeah, I've had Jack on the show before. He's a great guy as well. How long would it be before you'd like to get back into the cage then and fight again?
Man, like I spoke to Rod about it, and I said, if they give a good date, I like to have a couple months, 3 months off maybe. I need to improve some things, it's not, I don't find that it's too much of a point of me fighting like in a month's time if I don't have time to improve,
Yeah.
Because I'll be the same. It's all about improving and being a better martial artist, so good to, I would say 3 to 4 months, improve a few things, and then, challenge, go there and then challenge myself and see where I am again, hopefully with another win, another finish.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that you can say about you. You've had 6 wins, but every win there's not one of your wins that's gone to decision. Every win has been a stoppage, which is awesome. It's definitely, as a fan, I want to see a fight finish.
Yeah, I'm a fan, I'm a fan of the sport too. When I watch, man, sometimes you go, sometimes you can't just finish, but you're trying to be as exciting as you can, because at the end of the day, the way I look at it, there's a lot of people watching, people putting money, they're paying for it. They want to see a show, they don't want to see people running around and trying to avoid it. And at the end of the day, you're a performer, you go in there, you go in for the finish. That's what I think, I don't know if you guys think that way, but that's how I think, that's how we all think, At Tsunami, we go there and we look for the finish. If the finish comes, perfect, If it doesn't come, goes down to the season, and probably it's a tough fight, A lot of the guys finish their fights,
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's not necessarily always getting the finish. If you fight exciting, then the fans are going to love that as well. But definitely, fans love to see a finish. It's been great having you on the show today, Fabio. Sorry, go on. What was you going to say, Fabio?
No. I was just going to say, absolutely, trying to put a best performance on so everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, definitely. Because you want the promotion to want you back, and at the end of the day, no one's going to pay money to watch a fighter who isn't exciting to watch. That's just fact. It's been great having you on the show today, Fabio. I really appreciate you giving me your time. Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. Do you want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well?
Right, I just want to shout out all the Tsunami guys, you know what I mean? Luke, Barnett, John and Tommy McGuire, Jake, Mason, Robbie Olivier, Nigel Burgess, and all the guys that are behind the scenes, you know what I mean? I want to say hi to everybody back home as well. And I want to thank you, the British Fighter, the MMA clothing sponsors, and QNET as well. They do nutrition and stuff. And I want to thank the fans, man, you know what I mean? I've had a good feedback on Facebook and Twitter about the fight, you know what I mean? I fight for you, I'm always there trying to put a performance and stuff, Thank you so much for the support, It's been great. This week's been really, really good, and hopefully you guys get to see me soon in the cage again, and hopefully another finish.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today, Fabio.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate that.
Okay, we're now joined by Denniston Mad Max Sutherland. Denniston's coming off an impressive win at the weekend at Cage Warriors. Denniston, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So obviously, I do want to talk about your big win at the weekend. It was ultra impressive, and I know you've got another big fight coming up soon at UCMMA 35. So I want to talk about them. But before we do that, I just want to get a little bit of your background. How long have you been fighting mixed martial arts for?
I started out in 2005. Started training in 2005. I think I had my first fight in 06.
What made you want to get into mixed martial arts? Because I think at that stage it was still relatively unknown.
Yeah, but it was for me. It was very well known because I'm from Jamaica, where that's where it's unknown. Because I saw the very first UFC in Jamaica, and I think I saw 1 and 2, and then they never even showed that again in Jamaica. And internet was fairly young, so we couldn't even watch it on YouTube. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no YouTube. So when I came here, it was, well, as far as I'm concerned, it was everywhere. I could find it everywhere.
Okay, so did you start training in Jamaica or in the UK?
No. I did a bit of boxing when I was a kid back in Jamaica, but I only started MMA when I come here.
How did you find the transition from doing boxing to doing mixed martial arts?
It's completely different, man. Completely different. Because I went in there thinking, because I was quite bulky and I think I was walking around about 115 to 120 kilos. So I thought I'd be able to manhandle a few people. And then I got the smallest guy ever, Mark Chen, my very first MMA coach. I think he walks around about 60 kilos soaking wet. Just put me down on the ground and beat me up. And he don't pull punches, by the way.
Oh.
Just give me a beating. And of course I left there saying I love it. I came back the next day for some more beating.
So was it a real eye-opener for you then?
Very much so. I like challenges, I like adversity. I like to overcome it. So, like I said, getting beat up by some guy who was a third my size, it really spurred me on. I thought, if I could learn some of this ground stuff, it could really propel me,
Yeah.
as far as competitions goes. And the fighting as well. The kind of fighting, because I don't like that boxing has all these silly rules. When you get into the clinch, the ref jumps in and breaks it. I don't like all that. It's a fight. You carry on until the other guy's out or you're out. So
Yeah.
I love the MMA for that.
Yeah, I can understand completely where you're coming from. Now, you have been a big fighter on the UK scene for a long time, and you've fought in all the major UK promotions. What have been some of your personal highlights of your own career on the UK scene?
Obviously, fighting Mark Weir was a big one for me. But I've fought some unknowns, like Danny Giblin. I think he was the first fight I had where really pumped me up because, you know, after the fight, because of how we fought, after that fight, I really felt like, you know, this guy actually pushed me and I pushed him back. So that was probably my first favorite. Then, of course, when I fought Mark Weir, having done what he's done, and, you know, all the fights he's had, and to finish him on the feet, that for me became my favorite after that.
Yeah, because obviously we saw Mark Weir in the UFC, and he's got still to date got one of the fastest knockouts in the history of the UFC, hasn't he? So
exactly.
That's a hell of a...
And his stand-up career is vast, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hell of a win to have. Now, of course, we've seen you most recently, the weekend just gone. You were fighting Cage Warriors 56, which was a fantastic card, and it was a televised card as well. And you were fighting Brett Bassett. How did you feel going into that fight?
Oh, confident, as usual. You see, the thing is, for me, the fighting, it will take care of itself. The hardest bit is training. You know, just training, making weight. That's the hard work. The fighting, for me, is the fun bit. So I went into the fight feeling confident, like I do with every fight. And there are some fights I'm going to where all my cornermen and my friends will say, you know, they'll express some doubt as to whether or not I'm up to the task, because I think they go off what the other guy's done. But I always look at the opponent. I always look at their strengths, their weaknesses, and I try to make an informed decision as to whether or not I could beat that. You know, I could beat their skills on a good day. And most of the time it's a yes. So I always take fights that I think I can win, even when everybody else thinks that I'm going to get my ass whooped.
Because he was coming off quite a big win as well, because he'd won his last fight at Cage Warriors in something like under a minute by knockout, hadn't he?
Yes. Which is going to put him in a very confident, he's going to be, I think, overconfident, because everything I thought he would do in the fight, he did, you know. And there's a thing that you can't get caught up in. You can't start believing your own hype too much.
Yeah.
I think you need to be objective when you're a fighter. And exactly what I thought he was going to do, which is throw that big right hand, that's what he kept doing in the fight, you know. Because his corner might have said that was a lovely right hand. He might have watched the fight and thought that was a lovely right hand. The commentators might have been saying, this is a lovely right hand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's all he's been hearing about for however long that fight happened. Was it 9 months ago or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just thinking, you know, I can just work on this big right hand that I have. And when you do something like that, the problem you'll have is when you get into the fight, if you don't get your mind right first, you'll focus on that big right hand.
It certainly seems as well, the longer the fight went on, you just got stronger and stronger and stronger. So how much do you feel that your cardio played a part?
Well, my cardio, I think, has always been good, because I always managed to outlast the guy, but it's not so much my cardio that wins me the fight. It's my composure.
Yeah.
I try not to get too emotional in a fight. Saying that anger does help when you've got the guy rocked. Anger before the guy, I say, loses the fight, as in gives up the fight. Because I think there's a point in the fight where the guy loses, he might still be fighting, but he's lost already.
Yeah.
And any anger before that point, and you're just going to give him the fight. So, for me, I try and get in there as calm as I can be, so I can see everything. You know, I can have that peripheral vision. I can anticipate everything he does, and that's what I did. So when I got the point deducted, obviously it pissed me off because I didn't think that was a fair decision. Saying that, I'm not cussing the ref. I'm just saying I felt like if I didn't go and finish him, I'd have lost the fight. So that's when my anger kicked in, because I know obviously he's rocked, he's hurt, and he's worried now because I've been on top of him for the whole fight. So I can use that anger, and when he sees the anger, he's going to psychologically, I think, break, because I'm coming after him. So if you don't catch me with that big right hand, it's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I remember as well watching the fight, and the commentators who were calling the fight, they felt you shouldn't have had the point deducted. And me watching it thought that it was a wrong call, and they showed a replay, and the strikes looked legal as well. They didn't look like there was a problem with the strikes because they said it was to the back of the head, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I think what can happen sometimes in that position. I mean, I can't be too concerned about the other guy, what he's gonna do. I'm gonna focus on my game. He was there, and the side of his head was there for me to elbow. So I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I do know in the back of my head that at some point he's gonna turn around. He's gonna turn his head, turn his back to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, most of the refs know. If I'm elbowing the side of the head and then he somehow turns his head and gets hit in the back of the head, that is not my fault. That's on him. If I continue to elbow him in the back of the head, then that becomes my problem.
And that's the rules of the fight as well, isn't it?
Yes. So I did feel like it was, the wrong call. But again, the ref is there for the fighter's safety, so hopefully he would protect me just the same.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things I noticed about your recent record, and one of the things I liked about your recent record, is you're very active. I mean, in the last 12 months, you fought 6 times.
Yeah, to be honest, this year I wanted to fight every month. But the first fight took a while to happen. And because it was a big fight, I just didn't bother taking anything before it. The Ben Callum fight.
Yeah.
So I just waited until April, but I really wanted to fight every month. I was even going to take some unlicensed boxing fights if I had to,
Yeah.
But since April, I've managed to get a few fights back to back. So that's what I'm trying to do. Just trying to keep that momentum going. I want to get another fight after this one, this Karlos fight.
Yeah.
Maybe a month or month and a half after if I can. I just want to be busy, man. I like to fight, so why wait around?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, you talked about your match with Mark Weir, and in a way, there's a little bit of the same kind of feel going into this fight. We've seen Karlos Vemola in the UFC. He's had some good performances in the UFC. He's now coming back to UCMMA, of course, and he's fighting for a championship against you. How do you feel going into this fight?
Like I felt going into the last fight, confident. Look, I know the danger he possesses he's going to bring to the game for me. I know what his game is, but it's another fight, It's 3 5-minute rounds. One of us going to get finished, or we're going to go to a decision, I'm going to try and finish him for the whole 3 rounds. And I imagine he's going to try that, to do that to me. If he doesn't, his problem.
Do you get more enjoyment out of fighting a named opponent?
Say again?
Do you get more enjoyment out of fighting a named opponent?
Of course. Put it this way, it's about the challenge for me. The more experienced the guy is, the more big fights he's had, and then the more it's worth to me, on a personal level.
Yeah.
It's not about what everybody else, because everybody is going to hype the fight. I'm a fight fan as well, but I'm a fighter. That's what I live for.
Yeah.
It's not just my job. It's my personality as well. I fight for everything in my life.
Now, obviously, with Karlos as well, we've seen him in the UFC. We've seen him in UCMMA before. What do you feel are your strengths over his weaknesses?
Well, my strengths, I say my one strength is I'm usually a smart fighter. You understand?
Yeah.
I'm usually able to stay away from the other guy's danger and just capitalize on his weaknesses. So, without getting into what I think Karlos' strengths are, I think I can always find a way to win.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I really want to say it's been a real pleasure having you on. I appreciate you giving me your time. It's been really nice to speak to you, especially so close after a big fight and so close to your next big fight as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Hey Ray, it's no problem, man. I appreciate the shouts, I appreciate what you're saying about me on Twitter. That's really cool. Thank you very much.
That's my pleasure. No problem at all. Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout outs. You want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people.
It's always thanks to my coaches, all the guys who I trained with, you know, all the sparring partners, known and unknown, all the guys who would never really spar except with me because I know I won't hurt them, and the guys who just like to have a tear up. Everybody, just want to thank all of them because they all help my game. You know, when I'm sparring, it's all about learning for me. So the guys who are brand new, when I spar with them, I give myself loads of handicaps. There's some things I can't do, so I get to practice something, you know, or I just become a punch bag and try and defend. And the guys who are really good, I try and get them with something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to learn. So I just want to thank everybody who gives me an opportunity to learn.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks. Listen, let me just say a real quick shout, if I can, to my sponsors.
You can, yeah, of course you can. Shout them out.
Yes, Impact LPA.
Yeah.
All the crazy stuff he's been doing recently. My last fight shorts. It's my first signature fight shorts, actually. It looks great. MMA Holidays. Can't wait to go on a holiday with them. You know, imagine going on a holiday and being able to train every day. I mean, the wife won't like that, but hey. Yes, and Get Built, a new supplement sponsor. So they will save me a lot of money on food, plus they give me some cash. Hey, can't knock it, can you?
Absolutely not.
So yeah, they're all on my Facebook page and they're all on my Twitter account. Just give them a shout and give them some support as well because they're supporting me.
I am now joined by Ian the Machine Freeman. Ian's obviously a UFC veteran. He's due to fight the main event, UCFC 6. He should have been fighting Ken Shamrock. He's now fighting Ricco Rodriguez. Ian, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Okay, just wanted to get your take on Ken Shamrock. Obviously, you should have fought him now 3 times, and he's ducked you twice before. We're ready for this big fight, and he's done it again. He's ducked you again. Do you want to let us know what's going on?
Well, he knows that he would get smashed by me. I mean, he knows that. But to be honest, the 3rd time round, I honestly thought he was going to do it because he's skint. I mean, he's charging people $11.99 just to say hello to them over a telephone call. What he actually did as well is the promotion, UCFC, they give him his telephone number. Sorry, they give them their telephone number to ring them. He sent them an email saying, I can't get through. Could you ring me on this number? So when they rang Ken Shamrock in America, it was on his $11.99 telephone line. So he made them pay for that call, and he was putting the money in his pocket. He's like, he's just a fucking crook. That's all he is. He's just a horrible man. But I heard he was skint. He made a YouTube video of him signing the contract. He says, Ian Freeman doesn't want me to sign this, but I'm going to sign it anyhow. And I thought, no, this kid's serious. He wants to do it. Then he asked for $5,000 up front. As like a goodwill gesture. Obviously that wasn't his purse. That was just like, you know, I'm coming to England, I don't really know much about UCFC. Send me $5,000 and I know that you guys are serious. So UCFC sent him $5,000. And then he started demanding more money. He demanded another $15,000 after that, wanting to put in an American trust fund. Obviously UCFC said, no, I'm not doing that. We'll put in an English one so that at least we've got some control of it. So he turned around and says, well, fuck yeah, I'm not fighting. Right, and the $5,000, well, that's because you used my name to sell tickets. Ken Shamrock, you're an arsehole. Everybody uses a fighter's name to sell tickets. And to be honest, nobody bought tickets to watch you fight. Everybody bought tickets to watch you get smashed to bits by me. That's the only reason they're buying tickets. And then obviously when he put a big stink up on his Twitter page saying the fight not be going ahead, he actually killed ticket sales. Because coming from the horse's mouth, the man who was just an idiot and a coward, telling people he might not fight because he wasn't getting his money like he demanded. I mean, what fighter gets the money up front? I don't know any fighter today that gets money up front. You know, I mean, they might get a few expenses or whatever, you know, but nobody gets money up front, especially in half of the purse money. You know, just to be put in an American trust fund so he could fuck off with it like he did with the $5,000. He's just an idiot, man. I honestly wish now that I hadn't wasted my time on him on a 3rd time running. But he was the one who called me out, remember. Let's not forget that. He called me out. I was quite happy to sit down, drinking my can of Guinness, watching Judge Judy on the telly. I was quite happy with that. My life as fighting was over. But then when he made a statement and he made an interview saying that he wanted to fight me, I thought, you cheeky bastard. That's bang out of order. No way should you have done that. So obviously UCFC put it forward. Like I say, he signed the contract, he got money up front. I thought it was all going ahead. And then he chickens out once again.
It's ridiculous. Because I know we spoke at Redditch as well. And you did tell us a story in Redditch where after you should have fought him before and you faced his training partner, he kind of mocked you for the fact that the fight was a draw and he said, look, you didn't get to fight me. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, making no excuses. I trained for Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock, at the time, doesn't like to stand. You know, he doesn't like to do stand fighting. He preferred the ground, and he was an orthodox fighter, which means he's a right-handed fighter. So for 3 months, I was training for a guy who was going to take me down to the ground, who was going to try and submit me with leg locks. I was standing back to my feet, and he was a right-handed fighter. A week before the fight, he pulls out with a so-called mysterious injury, and he puts in Vernon White. Now, I'm not criticising Vernon White because Vernon White was actually a really nice guy. After we fought him, we had a drink. Really nice guy, but he stepped in to take the place of Ken Shamrock. He'd also fought in the UFC before. Now, he was a southpaw, and if anybody knows that changing your stance from an orthodox to a southpaw in the space of a week when you haven't had southpaw sparring partners, and he loves to stand. He loves to bang, and when he goes to the ground, he wants to get back to his feet. So it was the total opposite. So for 3 months, I've been training for a carbon copy, the opposite of Ken Shamrock. And after the fight, when I got a draw, he basically called me and he went, so you only got a draw with my student? And I turned around to him and I said, well, just as well it wasn't you then, because I'd get in a win. And I said, just as well you were injured. And he looked me square in the face and he went, injured? Ha! And then walked away. So I knew then he wasn't injured. It was just a big setup, a big, just to mess with my mind. And a week before the fight, give me one of his students who was the total opposite. Obviously a good game plan, it worked, but I got a draw out of it.
Yeah, it's a bullshit and a classless thing to do though. I know you could have had the opportunity.
Well, any man who sticks a glass bottle over his brother's head is a fucking classless idiot anyway, and that's what he's done. You know, I mean. What kind of man uses a bottle when you're supposed to be such a superior fighter like him? You can pick up a glass bottle and smash it over your brother's head. It shows what a tit he is.
Yeah, was that his brother Frank he did that to?
Yes, he did, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's an idiot.
Obviously, I know you had a chance to meet him again, and he chose one of your... he had a choice between you and somebody else, and he took the other option instead. Was it Robert Berry, is that right?
Yeah, it was Buzz. Yeah, it was my friend Buzz Berry. I was actually in America at the time with the IFL because I was selected to be a coach in the IFL, and so was Ken Shamrock. And we were actually on a coach on a bus on our way to the venue, and all the coaches were there. Mario Sperry, there was me, and Matthews, and everybody was there, right? And we're all on the coach. And then Ken Shamrock's manager, stroke lawyer. He shouted down to me and went, hey, and he went, do you know a guy called Robert Berry from England? I went, yeah, Buzz Berry. He went, yeah. He said, what's he like? I went, well, he's a good lad. He's a big heavyweight. He's this, that. Why are you asking? Oh, Ken's just signed to fight him in cage rage. And now this is when cage rage was big, when it was with Elite XC. And I was actually the cage rage champion at the time, and I was thinking, what? Why would cage rage give Shamrock Robert Berry and not me? So I had my mobile phone with us. I text him, and I text Cage Rage, and I says, I'm on a coach here with Ken Shamrock. His manager just asked me who Robert Berry is because he's fighting him in Cage Rage. Why have I not been given this opportunity when we were supposed to fight before? The message came back was he was given you as an option. He refused it and chose Buzz Berry instead.
And
what happened? He got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember him getting knocked out. He just seems to want to wind you up then and then duck you, from what I can gather.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I even sent him an email personally. Once he took this fight, once he said he didn't want to do it, and I knew it wasn't on, I sent him an email, and I basically said what we're talking about. I said, how can you, go from the world's most dangerous man to the world's most biggest pussy in the space of a couple of weeks? You're shouting you want to fight me. You had the option to fight me before. You bottled it. Now you're proving to everybody that this is for the fighters. And saying that doesn't want me to do this and there's there, and you're still pulling out. And it's got nothing to do with his contractual agreement that he's going on about. He's talking bullshit. He's just an idiot. And then he replied back to me and says, shouldn't you be saying that to me in front of my face? I went, well, fucking get your arse over here. Now's your chance. Let's do it. You know, I'm not the one who's running. I'm not the one who's hiding in America out the way. I'm here. If somebody wants to match me up in America with him, I'll do it. I'll come over there and I'll fight him. You know, I don't give a shit. But, you know, he kind of made himself out the world's most dangerous man and go on like that. It's just ridiculous. It's
crazy that he's able to turn it round on you. Like, it's like he feels that he's the bigger guy and he's made this decision and he's actually doing you a favour, and he seems to be putting it back on you. You need to do this, you need to do that. Yeah, you've done everything you can do, and he just is avoiding you like the plague.
I mean, he even said that UCFC are using me. You know what it is? UCFC haven't used me at all. I've agreed to a purse. I agreed to the opponent. They've accepted that agreement. They sent me the contract. I signed the contract. They're going to uphold that agreement. So how can UCFC be using me? What, because they're putting my name down to sell tickets? That's what a promoter does, you dipshit. You know, it's like, what planet is he on? You know, honest to God, he must think he's one of the reincarnated Beatles or something. He thinks he's bigger than what he is because he's nothing. You know, I mean, and all these WWE fans, you see, he's great and he's this and that. Yeah, he's great putting on a spectacle because that's what he's doing now. But as a fighter, no, he's not. You know, people, I've got all these fans inboxing me and saying, oh, he's going to leg lock, he's going to submit, he's going to snap your ankle. It's fucking made up shit that he's doing in the WWE when he's been tapping people out with leg locks. Fucking Frank Mir couldn't even fucking tap me out. He's world class, more superior than what that arsehole is. So what planet are they on? He would never have submitted me. I'd have thrown a punch and missed him. He just fell on the floor like he's done in a few fights, faking a knockout because the man hasn't got balls.
It's amazing how delusional some people can be. Even his fans sound like they're delusional. Obviously, putting Shamrock behind you. I mean, he's lost so much face for this, and it's not the first one who's done it.
Honestly, he is delusional. That's the problem. He believes in his own hype.
It's just what he's. But I mean, this has gone. This is global. What he's done. Everyone knows about this. All his fans in America know. You know, all your fans all over the world know. So he's made himself look like a complete and utter cock. There's no doubt about it. Now you've had a change in opponent. Obviously, you've had Ricco Rodriguez has stepped up, former UFC Heavyweight Champion. Again, another great fighter, a warrior, you know, like yourself. How do you feel about Ricco Rodriguez as an opponent?
Oh, well, I'm just happy that he stepped up. I mean, he was already fighting on the card, so it's not as if he's had to, you know, take the fight on short notice. But you know, I know Ricco. I know him from, you know, yesteryear back in the UFC. You know, we met a few times. I actually met him in London a few months back, and he's a man's man. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, will you fight Ian Freeman? Yeah, and I know that he's going to show up. You know, if for whatever reason he pulls out, it's because something serious has happened, not because it's some contractual agreement that's gone wrong and he's not getting paid up front. You know, something will have seriously happened. He's a man's man. He will come. He will fight, win or lose. At the end of the day, he's there to fight, and that's what he is, and I respect the man for that.
How much is I know you've come out of retirement, and I follow you on Facebook. I've seen the effort you're putting in preparing for Ken Shamrock. How motivated are you now with the change of opponent?
It makes no difference. I was motivated. It doesn't matter who it was going to be. You know, I just wanted somebody. I got a little bit upset when I was in between opponents because even I didn't know. There was talk that it was going to be Ricco, you know, but obviously UCFC had to speak to him, that they arranged it and everything else. And it was, I think it was about 3 days where I didn't know whether I was going to fight or not. And in that 3 days, I was a bit pissed off. And I was still training, but I was a bit sick. And then obviously they come out and said Ricco's agreed to it. And I was like, yeah, great. Still focused, still going. So it makes no difference. The only difference is I will fight Ricco as a professional. And Ricco will obviously show that same respect back to me. With Ken Shamrock, I was going to fight him as if he was an arsehole and I was going to hurt him. You know, where you know, you shouldn't really want to go in there and really hurt your opponent, but Ken Shamrock is a lucky man. He doesn't realise how lucky he is.
Yeah, having seen you fight and seen him fight, I have to agree. I don't think he would. I can't even imagine he was putting the effort in training. I imagine this was his plan all along. He was in it to get a little bit of attention, a little bit of money, and I think he was never going to fight.
Yeah, well, like I say, signing the contract, making a video of it, putting it on YouTube, accepting $5,000 up front, which he stole and he's not giving it back. I was thinking, oh, well, it looks like he's going to do it. Because obviously, every 2 weeks or every week or so, I was calling up the promoters of UCFC and just saying, what's the update, what's happening. It got to a point where he was asking for that many crazy demands. They ended up showing me some of the emails. So I know what Ken Shamrock and his lawyer have been saying. It's not as if UCFC have been saying, Ken said this and Ken said that, and I've got to take that word for it. I've seen it in black and white. I've read it, and I was thinking, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Apart from a unicorn, sucking off some lap dancer, he demanded everything. It was ridiculous. Absolutely silly.
Absolutely, it is ridiculous. It's just such a shame because it's a fantastic card, and it still is a fantastic card, and you and Ricco Rodriguez headlining it's still a dream matchup. But it would have been nice to see you and Ken Shamrock finally get it done after all the years, especially with him ducking you twice.
It would have been nice. I would have liked that.
Well, I know we're a
but
few.
Ricco, like I said, Ricco's the man. He stepped up, and it's going to be an honour to fight him. And like I say, I'm going to give him my full respect when we go down there. But the game plan hasn't changed. The game plan is going to be the same as what it would have been with Shamrock, is what it's going to be with him. Everybody knows my ground and pound superior. Once I get on top of somebody, they're not getting up. So nothing has changed. It's just the same thing, just a different opponent, but without the hate.
Yeah, at least maybe in a way without the hate is obviously a good thing for you with game planning and not letting emotions get ahead, which I know probably would have been hard with Shamrock. So we're a few weeks out from the fight now. Are you starting to slow your training down? How are you feeling with your training?
Oh no, definitely not. Doesn't slow down till the week before. To be honest, it's I'm still training twice a day. I'm training Monday to Friday, and then I have Saturday and Sunday off. But luckily, up till now, up till the fight, I haven't got any work on a Saturday and Sunday. Where normally I do work, and I've been doing seminars, and I MC or I commentate on different fight events, and I travel up and down the country. So that's why I don't train on a weekend, because I'm up and down London and back, and Norwich and back, and places like that, and it does kind of wear me out. So luckily I've got weekends off now. So I'm just chilling a weekend, recharge my batteries, ready for the Monday. But I'm training twice a day. I'm training at Spartan Performance, doing my strength and conditioning with Jack Lovett. I mean, I've never done strength and conditioning in my life, ever. When I was doing it, you'd heard about it. You knew roughly what it was about. But obviously, with me not fighting, I've never. Well, why should I go do it? I'm not really fighting. So some of the fighters that I've been in touch with are going, oh, hey, you must try the strength and conditioning. It's fantastic. It's really great for you, for your fighting game. And then obviously I got this fight, and I thought, right, I'm going to go see Jack. What a knowledgeable man. It's been great. And to be honest, people are looking at my pictures on Facebook, and they're going, you must be lifting some weights, you lad. What kind of routine are you doing? I'm not. I've never lifted a barbell since I've been training for this fight, or a dumbbell training for this fight. It's all been strength and conditioning and good diet. Never touched a bodybuilding workout for this fight, But anyway, so I've got that, and obviously I've got Richie Knox, he's a world class Thai boxer, BJJ. He's been, drilling things with me, and to be honest, he's actually been mimicking Ricco, so he hasn't actually been fighting at his top potential. So he's been taking a couple of shots on my behalf, which I thank him for that, just so that we can get used to what Ricco is going to be like. I'm training with Phil DeFries, UK's #1. He's a UFC fighter, and he's a big heavyweight, so he's good BJJ. James Mulholland, who's just won the British and Intercontinental British title. Ross Pearson, UFC. Colin Fletcher, UFC. Kurt Warburton, UFC. So, the camp that I've got, even some of the low-level guys, like Alex Enland, Darren Worrell, they might be low level, they're not UFC, but they're still giving me a run for my money. You forget I'm 46, clocking on to 47. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But these guys are keeping me on my toes, and you know what? They've opened their arms to me. I've never trained with these guys ever, and now that I'm training with them, it's just like, Ian, you're one of the team, and I really respect them for that. I really, really do.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to the event. I'm going to be there. Obviously, rooting for you, and there's a couple of other great UK fighters, and I'll be rooting for them as well. Before, I really appreciate you coming. I know it's short notice, and I really want to get you on and talk to you about this whole situation, because it's so much in the media at the minute. I just wanted to get your take on it, hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say. But so thank you for coming on. But before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to any shout outs. If you've got any sponsors you want to thank, let people know about your Facebook channel.
I mean, Fighters Only magazine, without a doubt. I've been with them from day one. You know, they support me, they help me, and you know, without Fighters Only and you know the owner Rob Hewitt, you know, I don't think I'd be able to push him for this fight. Bad Boy UK, John Paul Gardner, he's supported me for this fight. He's kitted me out. He's looking after me. You know, and Bad Boy's going from strength to strength now, and I really appreciate them. NRG Fuel supplement company helped me out. Genetic supplements, they helped me out. He's helped me out with my diet. That's what I'm looking so good. The guy called Neil Johnson, he's got a unit in concert. He just stands with you and tells you everything. And this man's like a guru on his diet. He's helped me out so much, which I'm grateful for. You know, but all the guys at Northeast Valley Turo, like I said, they helped me out. The guys at Team Machine, my own guys. Friday night we did a hard session and they took a beating, on my behalf, so that was great. You know, and they come back and they help me out. You know, a lot of people would take punches like that and they go in and think, I'm never going back there again. They know I need it, so they help me out. You know, you know, if I've missed anyone out, I do apologise, but there's so many people who've been rallying around me. But I think the biggest shout out's got to go to my wife, because at the minute I'm tense, I'm ready to explore. You know, you just know you're ready. Sunday night, I'd rested on Saturday, I'd rested on Sunday. Sunday night, come 9 o'clock, you know, my legs shaking, my foot's tapping. It's like I just need to do something. I want to go. I want to fight. And then, you know, the fighter in me calms down and it goes, you need to relax. This is the time to enjoy yourself, because you're going to have a hard session tomorrow, so just chill out, you know. So, but she's been behind me and making my diet, helped me with my diet with my food and everything else. And, you know, she's the one who's there, wakes up in the morning, got to put through all of this. And, yeah, so you've got to have a good team behind you to be a good fighter. And behind every successful man is even a more successful woman.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and I think it is all going to pay off for you in a couple of weeks. But thank you very much for coming on to today's show.
Lovely, and thanks everybody, all my fans and everybody on Facebook for supporting me. Win or lose, I'm going to do my best. Hopefully I win. Fingers crossed I win. You know, but the true fans, you know, win or lose, still there for you, and I love everybody for that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm now joined by UFC commentator Jon Anik. John, thank you very much for joining me today. It's a real honour to have you on the show.
My absolute pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Okay, brilliant. Well, obviously, I want to get your views on some of the big talking topics. There's always big talking topics in the UFC. That's what makes it so exciting. But before we do that, I just want to get a little bit of your background. So firstly, I want to know, when did you discover mixed martial arts, and what's some of your earliest MMA memories?
Well, watched UFC 1 in 1993, and then there was probably a gap after UFC 2 or 3 where I didn't watch it until about UFC 50. I attended my first MMA event in 2007, and that's what really set off the bug for me. You know, that's what made me addicted to it, and I guess I just need to see it live. And it was Elite XC's debut of all things, but, you know, Gina Carano was fighting Julie Kedzie. Main event was Frank Shamrock against Renzo Gracie. And the rest is history. You know, I really got the bug, and then, you know, at the time was doing a lot of boxing stuff, and professionally that allowed me to segue into mixed martial arts. Got an audition to do MMA Live at ESPN and was able to host that show, and that sort of, you know, became my focus as far as the career went, to do MMA as much as possible.
Looking at, like you said, you started with the early UFC, went away, come back into it around UFC 50. And you mentioned there Elite XFC, and some of the fighters there you mentioned are high-quality fighters. Could you ever imagine that the sport would take off the way it has?
No, you know, it's interesting how quickly it's happened, because even back in 2007 and 2008, when I started to notice an uptick in the coverage and just the interest, you know, you never thought that fast forward 6 or 8 years and it would have, you know, mushroomed the way it has. But, you know, I guess after attending some UFC events, I got the bug even further, and you sort of know what you have, you know, and Lorenzo and Dana very much were visionaries as far as what they thought they could, you know, turn this thing into. And, you know, I don't know that there's any greater illustration for the monster that is the UFC than the UFC Fan Expo, especially being so fresh in my memory. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. The UFC takes over Las Vegas. which is a hard place to take over, by the way, and they do it well. And, it's really nice to be on board, and to work for the MMA leader. I feel very blessed,
Yeah, what the UFC have done for mixed martial arts is absolutely amazing. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the first time I saw you was MMA Live. We used to get that on in the UK as well, which was good. What was it like hosting that show? Because not only was it you, but you had some great panellists on there as well, all really highly thought of and established fighters. What was it like being part of that?
Well, firstly, I want to say, all of us on MMA Live felt a great connection with the fans in the UK because you guys got our show on TV before anybody else did. It didn't land on ESPN2 until several months after it was on TV in the UK, and we always felt a special connection, and I know we did sort of a longer show for you guys than they got in the States, and that was very special for us too. But it was great. It certainly was largely where I cut my television teeth, and to have, Kenny Florian, Franklin McNeil right next to me every step of the way was great, and all the other faces, behind the scenes associated with the show. ESPN doesn't put on a lot of shows when they don't have rights to a sport. You don't see NHL tonight anymore, and we felt it was pretty good to get MMA Live on TV, given that there were no fights on ESPN's air at the time, and it's definitely something that I'll always look back fondly upon, and, hopefully there's a show like that potentially in my future. You never know.
I mean, that's where we first saw you, and that's what's brought you to the mainstream with the fans. So how did the approach come about from the UFC, and was it something that you knew was going to happen, or was it a bolt out of the blue? How did that all play out?
I got approached, by a UFC executive, I guess, when Shogun Rua fought John Jones in New Jersey in 2011, and it was a contract year for me, and I just wanted to call fights. I wanted to do play-by-play. I got a chance to do some college football and some boxing at ESPN, but I really wanted to do play-by-play, and, as soon as the UFC approached me, as I understood it, I was going to be calling about half the shows, and to me that was just a humongous opportunity and really exactly what I was looking for at the time. And, quite frankly, I didn't think an opportunity like that would materialize as quickly as it did. I'm very thankful. I really don't take it for granted. I know the job could have gone to someone else, but I'm just trying to do the best I can. And there's just nothing like doing live events, especially for the UFC. And, when I got to ESPN, I thought I'd never leave. And it really took a job like this, to get me to leave the sports leader for this, MMA juggernaut. Yeah,
understandably. I mean, what you had on MMA Live was fantastic, and like you say, had such a good following. It's such a well thought out show, but there's only really one place you could go from there within MMA, and it was straight onto the UFC. And you and Kenny Florian have done a great job. We've seen the same two commentators for such a long time, and they're both amazing. Did you feel any extra pressure though with there being such a good team between Joe and Mike? Did you feel any pressure on yourself?
Maybe pressure is the right word. I mean, we can't do anything but be ourselves, so you don't really feel pressure in terms of the performance. They hired you for you. But I guess with the fans, and when you have an institution like Mike and Joe, it's hard to accept change for Dana White on down, But we can just really control what we can control, and that's our performance and our preparation, and we're very confident as far as that part of the game goes. But you never want to follow the guy. I feel bad for here in the United States, Vin Scully, who's been calling Dodger games for years in L.A. You feel bad for the guy who has to follow the guy, but it wasn't really something we thought about at the time, just excited for the opportunity it's not even about so much showcasing what we can do as much as it is about showcasing the product and the UFC. And ultimately, if they're not talking about the broadcasters, I guess we're doing a pretty good job. So, it's a great job to have. I have a lot of respect for everybody who's called UFC fights in the past, and certainly Mike and Joe. And, again, don't take this seat for granted, man. I really don't.
What was it like working with Joe as well?
It's great, I mean, I keep using the word dynamic when I'm asked about him in interviews because it's the first word that comes to the tip of my tongue. Whatever he does, he seems to succeed at. And a few days ago, I saw his comedy show for the first time. It's just outstanding. I have a whole new appreciation for that as a performing art and everything that he can do, from a writing standpoint and then being able to perform it. So sitting down next to, the guy who had called every UFC fight that I grew up watching was pretty special, and I'm excited to do it again, August 17th, for Fox Sports 1 in Boston. So it's great, man. It really is a pleasure working with Joe and Kenny, and anyone else they want to throw my way.
Okay, what I'd like to do now is get some of your views on some of the big talking points, some of the big things we've got coming up, and also some of the things you've done within the UFC as well. Obviously, the big talking point at the minute is Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman. What were your views on the fight?
Man, I still am trying to digest it several days later, if you can believe it. I think for a lot of us, it was just stunning to see Anderson Silva go down that way, and I think most of us expect and hope that he'll be back. So when I say go down, I don't necessarily mean it with finality, but I just never thought we'd see him cross-eyed on the canvas, and Weidman clearly not only is very skilled and very committed, very dedicated, but he's also very well coached and well trained, and you can be sure that they practice to try to hit a moving target, potentially a taunting target that was backing up, which Anderson Silva has done stylistically for years. They were prepared, and unlike past opponents, they capitalized on an opening, a mistake, an opportunity, a taunt, whatever you want to call it, but he did what no one else did. Strange performance from Anderson Silva. I would think as the competition gets better, you would do less of the taunting, especially once you've been touched. But he's so confident in his chin that was willing to, go down that way. And I think we all just hope he comes back, ideally for a rematch, as soon as possible. I don't want to see Weidman sit out till 2014, but I do think that should be the next fight. So a lot to digest, sort of a crazy result, but I hope Anderson Silva comes back and fights at the top of the division where he belongs.
It's interesting because the knockout is being likened very much to one of his coaches' knockout, which was, of course, Matt Serra versus George St. Pierre. Do you think that Silva underestimated Weidman?
I think it would have been hard to if he was paying attention to any of the preamble leading up to the fight and how many people were picking against him. But, I don't know. I mean, there was just something off from him, Maybe he had different nerves for this type of opponent. You really don't know. Anderson Silva keeps a lot of things close to the vest, and I think part of that is a competitive thing that he does. But, he never seems to be in trouble on the ground, which is where maybe most people forecasted a Weidman win. Seems to slip out of spots that maybe look a little bit perilous and make them look like they aren't. He's very hard to cut open. He's got a great chin, as I mentioned. This was just a strange night, and I think ultimately the opponent who Anderson Silva maybe recognized could get him, and maybe that got into his head a little bit. I think he recognized that Weidman was as capable as any recent challenger. Okay,
moving off that subject then, because there is more than two fighters in the UFC, of course. The UFC is talented in every single division. Another big title fight coming up soon is TJ Grant versus Benson Henderson. Now, we've kind of seen TJ Grant rise from the ashes. He's come out of nowhere, and his last 2 or 3 performances have been stunning. What have been your views of TJ Grant's rise, and do you feel he is a threat to Benson Henderson?
Absolutely, I think he's a threat. Benson Henderson is going to make it very difficult to be dethroned. Such a hard guy to finish, and he just scores his points, man. I mean, Benson hits you. He finds a way to connect, and he makes very good adjustments, according to his most recent opponent, Gilbert Melendez. But TJ Grant's on a tear. I'm so thankful and happy for him that he's getting this title shot because it is so well-deserved after winning 5 straight, and his last 2 wins doing so the way he did it with just unquestionably huge first-round knockouts. Nobody does that to Gray Maynard. That is as title shot worthy a number 1 contender's performance as we've seen. So excited for him to have the opportunity. He's a big guy. He's a violent guy. He looks for the finish. I don't know if he'll be a little bit more conservative against a guy like Benson because Benson has so many weapons and a lot of finishing moves, in his corner as well. Very competitive fight, though, and a very worthy number 1 contender in TJ Grant.
Yeah, I often say when I speak with other people, it's not necessarily who they've beat, it's how they've beat them. And TJ Grant, it wasn't necessarily that he beat Gray Maynard, which would be impressive in itself, but it was the way he beat Gray Maynard. We've never ever seen anyone do that to Gray Maynard, and that includes the likes of Frankie Edgar, who we know is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, the next big title fight coming up is in a couple of weeks, of course, which is Demetrius Johnson versus John Moraga. Is Moraga a threat to Johnson?
I think we have to give him that credit because he comes from a good camp and he'll definitely be prepared. I guess he hasn't wowed you so far in the UFC. The submission of the night was nice against Chris Carriasso at UFC 155 last year, but, he was a little sluggish and flat before then, and against a guy like Demetrius Johnson, you can't be either of those things. I just think there are only a few guys John Dodson, number one, and Joseph Benavidez right beneath him, who can really keep the pace with Demetrius Johnson. And again, just such a hard guy to finish at 125 pounds. You really are going to have to take advantage of a most rare mistake from Demetrius Johnson. He commits so few. I'm not sure Maraga's the guy to unseat him, but hey, he's on a winning streak. He's only got one career loss by decision to John Dodson. So, the pedigree is there, and we'll see how he performs in the biggest showcase of his life,
Yeah, it's going to be a good fight. And obviously it's still a very new division, so we're still seeing new talent come through as well. There is a lot of talk on who Aldo should fight next, should he beat the Korean Zombie. If you could choose the number one contender for the winner of Aldo versus the Korean Zombie, who would you choose?
It's difficult because Ricardo Lamas beat Cub Swanson head-to-head. It's hard not to look at Cub Swanson's 5-fight winning streak and think that he's automatically the guy. But what Ricardo Lamas did to Eric Koch in what was a huge spot is hard to not acknowledge as well. So, as long as it was one of those two guys, I wouldn't have a huge problem with it. This is my favorite division right now. I mean, you've got Chad Mendes, who, for my money, no pun intended, might be the best guy in the UFC across any division who doesn't have a belt right now. So there's so many guys there who I think have a case. That Lamas-Swanson fight was a long time ago. I guess, I would go Lamas 1, Swanson 2. Mendes right there. It's my favorite division in the UFC. And, I guess in one sense, because Anthony Pettis got hurt, it is good that it'll be cleaned out to some extent. Either the Korean Zombie or Aldo will move forward, and some of these contenders can get an opportunity that really all of them deserve.
Yeah, it is an amazing division. If you could pick one realistic super fight with a fighter either moving up or down one weight class, which fight would you like to see?
I guess Daniel Cormier against John Jones, and if that doesn't answer your question and qualify as a super fight, I get it. It doesn't necessarily involve two of the big three. I just don't know how realistic those other fights are, and I also don't know how competitive they would be. A lot of fighters that I talk to think a George St. Pierre Anderson Silva fight, even if it wouldn't be that exciting, would be a more competitive super fight than Anderson Silva against John Jones because of the size discrepancy. So, I would sort of like to see Daniel Cormier, to me, an undefeated heavyweight fight or light heavyweight champion at some point in time. I also think Cain Velasquez against John Jones certainly is a future fight that I would point to. But, after what happened with Anderson Silva, it's hard to necessarily go in the direction of one of those other two super fights that we talked about for so long, Not that the demand has shied away for an Anderson Silva-John Jones fight, but I think promotionally it becomes a little bit more difficult to do.
Yeah, I like the call as well. I think Cormier-Jones would be a fantastic fight. Cormier's looked like a beast pre-UFC. It'd be nice to see him find that form in the UFC. Who are some of your favourite fighters to watch?
It's a lot of the guys we discussed, Chad Mendes, Cub Swanson, a lot of those featherweight guys. I've always enjoyed watching Donald Cerrone fight. I'm hoping Kenny Florian will come out of retirement and fight Donald Cerrone. But, I really like a lot of the heavyweights. I like Stipe Miocic, an athletic up-and-coming heavyweight. I have a huge appreciation for Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos for what they do. Yuri Alcantara, who fights Uriah Faber in Boston on August 17th. This guy's been a stud at 145 pounds, 155 pounds, now fighting at 135. Huge fight for him against Uriah Faber. Dominic Cruz, personal friend and a guy on the mend, hoping he gets back. There's so many guys, Now that the roster's about 400, it's harder for me to, hone in on a few names. But it's just a great group of guys, and it's an honor to call, fights involving the greatest fighters in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the UFC roster is absolutely phenomenal. Final question, then I'll give you a chance to do a couple of shout-outs. Which has been either your best fight or event that you have commentated on so far?
Well, I first have to say, Shogun Rua against Dan Henderson, it was UFC 139, I believe. I had been hired like 3 weeks previously, or I had been on the job for 3 weeks, and I got to call that pay-per-view with Frank Mir. It wasn't anything that was broadcast. They were just auditioning me with different guys. So, imagine being on the job 3 weeks and then sitting on the apron as Shogun Rua fought Dan Henderson. That's still the best live fight I've ever seen. But I guess in terms of the fights that we've called, main event involving Dustin Poirier and Chan Sung Jung certainly comes to mind. Chris Weidman's coming out party against Mark Munoz a year ago was a memorable main event for us. We've just had great main events, which has been phenomenal. Brian Stan against Vanderlei Silva. so many of the last fight of the nights for us have been outstanding. So even the title fight, Hennon Brown, Michael McDonald, was an enjoyable one. It's been great. We've had a lot of finishes of late, and hope they keep coming.
Yeah, all the fights there you mentioned were phenomenal. Hendo Shogun was completely and utterly out of this world. So I wanted to pick up on actually something you mentioned in the previous answer. Is Kenny Florian considering coming out of retirement to face Donald Cerrone?
Well, I just love to keep the talk going, because, maybe there's a 10 or 15% chance, I think you'd be hard-pressed to get a higher number than that out of him right now. But I like to keep the talk going. I'm telling him he should go on TRT and he should improve his back and get back in the octagon. I hate that for him it ended with an injury, and I just know there's still some big fights out there for him, and he can still draw. But, I'm going to keep pushing that agenda, and hopefully you guys will do it with me, and maybe he'll come back for a fight or two. But it will be a 155, I can promise you that.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I remember watching Kenny Florian on Ultimate Fighter first season when he first came onto the mainstream, and watching him go from that to what he became was one of the biggest improvements I think I've ever seen in a fight out from the beginning to where he went. He became one of the best, one of the best lightweights in the world, and probably one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world at that time he was fighting as well. So watching him rise through was just absolutely amazing. I really appreciate you coming on today, John. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Like I said, I've followed you for a long time, so I was really looking forward to getting the opportunity to speak with you. But before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to any shout-outs. Anyone you want to thank? Facebook, Twitter, any sponsors?
Well, likewise, I appreciate you having me. No sponsors. You can follow me on Twitter. It's JON_ANIK. And if you did like our ESPN Weekly chat, we're going to hopefully start one soon. I may not be able to do it every week, but at UFC.com, we should be starting a chat similar to the one that I did at ESPN.com a while back. So other than that, appreciate the time. Hope to be back, in the UK before the year's out.
Well, thanks very much for your time today, John.
Take care, my man. Thanks.
Okay, that was this week's show. Hope you agree. There were some great interviews on there. Five fantastic guests. Eric Moell, Fabio Ferrari, Denniston Sutherland, Ian Freeman, John Anik. It was great having all of them on the show. I'm not sure who I've got lined up for next week, as always. Nothing booked at the minute, but I'll always pull something out. I'll get some great guests on. And thank you very much for listening.